Hi, I'm Hazel, and this is a guide to the boss fights in the Dawn of the Infinites Mega Dungeon, new to WoW in patch 10.1.5. This is an 8-boss experience. It's available on Mythic 0 only right now, so you do need to put together a group. It drops 437 hero track loot and aspect crest fragments. Our first boss is Chronikar. You want to spread and move out with the Sandstomp to drop puddles out of the way. Tanks need to mitigate the Chrono Shear hit. They'll be left with a debuff and a healing absorb. Healers can heal off that absorb and then dispel the debuff ASAP. At full energy, Chronikar will leap several times towards players. Avoid the initial impact, dodge the orbs, and somebody stand in the single soak that is left behind after each leap. Our next boss is the Manifested Timeways. This fight features rotating pizza slices. Standing in the light slice hurts a little bit and gives you movement speed. The dark one hurts a little less and reduces your damage taken. The tank should mostly stick to the dark slice. The boss aims a cone attack called Unwind at the tank. That hits twice, and if the tank is in the dark slice, the second hit is delayed. Tanks can aim that away from friends, keep to the dark wedge, and move out before the second hit. The tank is also probably rotating around the boss to stay in their dark wedge, so it can be helpful to put a marker in their head so everybody else can watch out for them and try not to be behind them for that cone. Fragments of time orbs fly out from the boss for you to dodge. They move slowly across the dark wedge and fast across the light ones. The borders between the dark and the light wedge make gaps in the orb, so watch the edge of your wedge and use the gap to pass through. It's easier if you're not super close to the boss, and this boss has a massive hitbox, so even melee can be standing a fair ways out. Chrono Faded debuffs 2 players. Those people need to be in a light wedge when that expires or is dispelled. If they're not, it makes this big slow ring that you have to muscle through, and that hurts more. Get into the light when you have the debuff. Boss number 3 is the Blight of Galakrond. This boss can be best described as hot potato. Corrosive Infusion spits swirls to dodge and puts the corrosion debuff on a player. This is our hot potato. You must pass it around by running into each other to reset the timer and prevent it from falling off. There is no harm to passing it, and 2 players can just trade it back and forth. If a player holds it for too long and it falls off though, they are mind controlled for 20 seconds, so pass the potato. Blight Reclamation is a frontal cone aimed at the tank. It does physical damage and removes corrosion. It eats the potato. Make sure that the tank has corrosion before the cone and then mitigate the hit and no more debuff for a bit. The boss oozes puddles. Tanks and melee, be careful of that. At 80% health, the Blight transfers to Azon. It does the same mechanics as before and will now also do necrotic winds. Watch the tornadoes and get out of the way. At 50% health, it splits into 2. These 2 bosses copy damage to each other, so cleave your heart out. No more necrotic winds, but the new dragons have their own mechanics. Lazkaleth will root a player with Necrofrost. DPS need to swap to and kill those chains. Dazak's Incinerating Blight Breath is a frontal cone, watch out for that. Finish these guys up and it's time for the final boss of the first half. Iridikron is our first half finale. Chromie helps us out with this one. Extinction Blast will target a player with a huge AoE. They need to stack on Chromie in her bubble. Everyone else get out of the way. Don't panic if you get Extinction Blast and Chromie is super far. She will port to be closer to you. Following that, we get a pair of soaks near Chromie. The tank needs to take the smaller one in front, while the rest of the party stacks with Chromie here. The healer can keep an eye on Chromie's health and toss her some heals if she's getting low. As long as you all soaked with her, she should be alright. Make sure that you do not move out too early, wait for Stonecracker Barrage to finish before you move. You do get a haste buff after the Stonecracker Barrage, so get some good boss damage in. Earth Surge puts a big absorb shield on the boss and fires out lines of earth spikes to dodge. Avoid the spikes and DPS off the shield to make it stop. Pulverizing Exhalation is a big cone attack that puts rings on everyone. After a few seconds, each player spawns a caster ad. You want to all move out of the cone, preferably in the same direction, we just decided to pick left, and then loosely group to spawn your ads together without stacking the rings. Interrupt and kill the ads. When he reaches full energy, which should be at 90% health, Iridikron begins casting Cataclysmic Obliteration. Stack with Chromie and use any cooldowns left to damage him, which now reduces his energy bar. If you bring it to 0 before the cast finishes, you win. And if you don't make it in time, then you wipe and get to try it again. Our second half begins with Tyr, the Infinite Keeper. Most of his attacks drop puddles, so this one is about aiming those wisely. You really want to keep the middle of the room clear. Sparks of Tyr puts out a pair of dots that explode when they expire. Healers can dispel one right away and heal through the other so that they don't both pop at once. Dividing Strike is a soak mechanic at the boss's feet that will drop a puddle. Get as many people as you can into that to help soak. Minimum 2 if they have big defensives, and preferably more like 4 or 5. Infinite Annihilation aims a cone attack at a random player. That leaves behind more gold puddles, so try to bait that away from the middle, and also definitely dodge it. Titanic Blow aims a cone attack at his tank, knocking them back and leaving behind more gold puddle. Tanks need to mitigate and point that carefully. Don't get knocked off, don't hit your friends, and try not to point it towards the middle of the room either. When he's out of energy, Tyr will siphon the Oathstone. This does a tiny pushback, so make sure that you are not right on the edge when this happens. You all now need to run around and intercept these gold orbs. They give you delicious haste, and it's really bad if they make it to the middle, so try not to miss any. Pick those up, and it'll be rinse and repeat. Once Tyr is down, you need to get past this bullet hell gauntlet. The bad news is that it's awful. The good news is only one of you needs to get by it. Once through, the Mega Gamer can open a portal to let their friends skip it. I have personally never successfully done this, but I've heard that it helps to bait attacks before you go, be patient, and stick to a side edge. Good luck. Next, there's no more avoiding it, it's Morchie time. Sandblast is a physical line attack she aims at her tank, mitigate, and point that away from people. More Problems splits the boss into many Morchies. You need to find the real one and stand to the side of her to avoid her cone attack. The real Morchie will look like this, and the others will have various costumes and hats. Stand next to the Morchie without the hat. Time traps spawn traps on the ground. Do not touch these. You will need them. Familiar Faces summons an ad for each player that will fixate them. You must CC or kite your ad into a time trap to prevent it from murdering you. Traps are consumed when used, so spread out and get your own trap. You get a little bit of time before your ad starts to chase you, and the first one will spawn where you're standing, so set yourself up ahead of time so that your ad runs straight into a trap. Trapping an ad does raid damage, so ideally stagger that out by slowing or CCing a few ads. This is easier said than done, but it will help. The rude thing about this fight right now is sometimes there just aren't any traps yet, and you have to CC or kite the ads until she spawns more. Morchie will reactivate your ads throughout the fight, and each time it's going to start from where you left it, so keep an eye on where your ad is and plan your next kite. Once you've taken down Morchie, it's time for the time-lost battlefield. This fight has different flavors for Horde and Alliance, but the mechanics do the same things. Your boss will be either Grommash or Lothar, depending on your faction. He will decapitate his tank, doing a big hit and leaving a nasty healing reduction debuff. Tanks should use mitigation to hold on, and healers can top them back up after the Mortal Strike ends. He'll charge up a series of frontal cones, sidestep out of those. Occasionally, the boss will leap to a player and chase them with a blade storm. Run away and try not to mow down your friends. Ads will spawn, round them up, and kill them ASAP. The axe throwers or archers put out painful bleeds, so I like to focus those down first. The casters do a dispellable dot and set down AoEs, those are a good second priority, and the melee are just melee. This fight has a pretty high amount of unavoidable group damage, so try to make things easier on your healer by staying somewhat nearby and using your defensives and health pots as needed. If you did not bring health pots, you should definitely bring health pots. Keybind them, they'll save your life. Finally, we come to the last fight of the dungeon. We fight Chrono-Lord Deios in 2 phases. During the entire fight, pairs of falling infinity orbs will spawn. These have wiped me more than anything else. When they hit the ground, they do group damage and leave a group-wide debuff. Standing underneath one will make it fall more slowly. You need a player to stand in one of them to keep it in the air until the other one falls, and the resulting debuff expires off of the group. If you still have this debuff when the second orb hits the ground, it's kablooey. You can try to assign one player to always be the orb stander. This works great until they spawn very far from that one person, or you can work it in voice chat who's going to stand in the orb each round. Temporal Breath is a frontal cone aimed at the tank. Point that away from people. Infinite Keeper ads will spawn and try to open portals. They spam Infinite Blast and put out Chronal Burn dots, which you can dispel. The time-displaced trooper ads they summon need to be rounded up and cleaved down. Killing a keeper does 20% of the boss health, and when he gets to 20% health, we move into phase 2. Falling orbs and frontal cones will both continue. This phase features big raid damage and lots of swirls to dodge that drop sand puddles beneath players. Watch your feet and keep moving the boss to clear space as you finish the fight. At 8% health, the proto aspects will all pitch in to help you defeat Deios. And those are the bosses in Dawn of the Infinites. Thanks for watching, stop by a stream sometime if you like, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.